Hi everyone, I hope you're well and good to be with you today. Jim can't be here, he's up a mountain if you haven't already heard. So basically I've come on today to share with you the UK Zoopla House Price Index. So it's just been released to us in February and it's taken into account up to December, end of last year. What does it mean? What does it mean for you? How does it impact you? How does it impact the Scottish house market? Primarily, how does it impact Fife? So giving you some insight into that and hopefully you find it useful. If you'd like to ask any questions, feel free to message me here direct and I'll do my best to answer them. So I'll give you a bit of a flavour where it is. So as I say, this is all according to Zoopla and it's their house price index up until the end of December. So executive summary wise, I'll give you a bit of a flavour for what they're saying here. So what they're basically saying to us is that the annual house price inflation has slowed down by 5.3%. From 8.6% from the previous year. Does it really mean anything to us? Well, I'll give you a bit of an insight into that later. As I say, this is just kind of the headlines on the executive summary. So what they're also saying for us is buyer demand and sales volumes are between 20 and 50% lower than a year ago, but slightly ahead of the pre-pandemic years of 2017 and 2019. And I'll go into what that means for Scotland and Fife as well when I get onto that and give you a real idea or understanding how it impacts us directly. Basically, it's a buyer's market. Sellers are having to accept, in some instances, an average of 4.5% discounts on their asking prices to the average sale achieved. Again, this is UK-wide, so not necessarily impacting us in Fife, so something for us to think about. But it is the highest of 5 years as a buyer market takes hold, so buyer demand, and we're certainly seeing that. Average discounts to asking prices are around about the 14,000 mark, and that's meaning that sellers are really having to maybe, in some instances, forgo a third of their property asking price in regards to discounts before the pandemic. But again, is that impacting Scotland and Fife? Because this is a UK statistic. So again, we'll look at that. So broadly based, repricing of housing is underway in the UK. Inflation is set to move into lower negatives, we're hoping, year on year by the summer. So again, there was been a release on that this morning. So when I was looking at that in regards to the Bank of England, basically what Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, has said is that in their view, the current 4% really, is that going to be that it stays like that, or will they have to review it again in the future, and how quickly will that be reviewed? Do they need to impact it? Do they need to improve and increase the interest rates, and how does that impact you? And the answer to that is really all dependent, from what he said, is what happens with inflation. So inflation, as we know, for the last 3 months has stayed around the 10.1%. So that's a good thing. So it means that actually we didn't go into recession, because we had 3 consecutive months for December, November and October where we were at 10.1. So that means we didn't reach a recession, but actually it has continued to reduce in those 3 months from the 11.1. So that's a positive, but it's far from the 2% target that we have as a UK. So really how that then transpires over the next few months is really going to determine what they do in regards to interest rates. So currently sitting at 4% on our interest rates, we need to see what's going to happen with inflation to decipher whether that's going to impact us. But what he did say was that actually, if we do little now, it could actually cost us and mean higher later. So it might be an idea for them to actually address this as we start to see that inflation come down. It also means actually for buyers out there, and we're saying it's a buyer's market, it is a perfect opportunity for you to secure some good mortgage interest rates on a fixed deal for maybe 4 or 5 years. And they are out there and we are seeing that. So market is still on track for a soft landing, as they're saying. Modest price falls are commonplace to 5%, potentially in 2023. We're not seeing that impacting Fife at the moment. And I'll give you a bit of a flavour as to what some of these stats really mean for you. So I'm going to just share some of my slides with you. So in this one here, what you're seeing, let me just do that. So in this slide here, what you're seeing is basically the 2 different ways that we can view the sales market trends. The first element that we're looking at here, that 8% going up and 51% going down, basically is your buyer demand. So actually, whilst they say that about interest rates, we are still seeing actually that buyer demand on property, pre-pandemic years, now year on year, we're still up by 8%. So that's a really strong position for us to be in. So that's a real positive. What they're then saying is actually sales agreed, again, an increase of 1% on previous years at -24. So again, it doesn't really impact us on a negative stance. So that's positive as far as we're concerned, and it impacts us obviously in the Fife market as well as UK wide. So that's grand. Flow of new supply, not unusual to have seen that at -4%, compared to the 1% of the previous year. And what that's basically saying is it's pretty much stable, in all honesty. There is a slight shortage in demand, but again, not fully impacting us in the Fife market. What we've seen historically, pre-pandemic, where there was about 1,200 through the pandemic, property-wise for sale in Fife, we were around about 500, 550. This morning, looking at it, it was 866. So it certainly still is a buyer's market, but there is a supply coming to the markets, which make it a great opportunity for you to secure a fantastic property at a good price point for yourself. And that really talks about the stocks at home at the end here, where you see stock has gone down by 11%. So again, that is just another stipulation in regards to that it is a buyer's market. However, 550, 7 months ago, you've now got a choice of 866 properties. So there definitely is more property out there, which is a great thing. So that really impacts you in regards to what is available to you and maybe the deals that you can negotiate. What they're also saying is, are we looking at a glass half full scenario? So the reality is that the current market conditions that are more aligned really with pre-pandemic years. I think all of us felt that, didn't we? When the pandemic hit, there was doom and gloom. What is going to happen with regards to the property market? Is the property market going to crash? They had these huge predictions of what would happen, and it actually didn't impact us, did it? We actually saw it going in the opposite direction, where property prices exploded effectively. And I think that now we're starting to compare ourselves to those explosive prices rather than actually the reality of a stabilised market, which is really what we're starting to see coming through now. So the reality is that the current market conditions are more aligned with the pre-pandemic years, as I say, with demand at 8% higher and sales agreed upon up 1%. So there's still an improvement there on property. What does that mean for you? Well, in regards to Fife and Scotland, for instance, Scotland up till December had still seen a 5% improvement in demand, and in Fife it was 5.3. We pretty much stayed the same. So the average Scottish house price was £187,000 up until December. In Fife it was 174. So we've stuck at the 5.3% mark, and we've been around about that now for about 6 months. So actually that's still a strong position for us to be in, and we don't see that heavily impacting. I know Jim did a show on this yesterday, a very brief one before he headed off, and one of the things that we looked at was potentially, will it crash? Is it now the right time to buy? Should I wait 6 months? And actually our feeling is now is the right time. Go ahead, you're moving for your circumstances anyhow. Buy now, it suits you. You can get great fixed deals still on mortgages if that is what you need at 4 or 5%. So there's good options out there that actually secure you a little bit of certainty in the future as well. So in our mind, we would say, yeah, go now. There doesn't seem to be a negative impact for yourself, and actually waiting may cost you further. And going back to what Andrew Bailey said, if interest rates do need to go up in the future, which is sounding like they will need to, and that there might not be too much of a delay in the time that they do that, it's going to heavily impact you potentially on 3, 4, 5, 6 months time. So take advantage of where we are now. I don't think that we're going to go ever down to that 2% rate, certainly not in the next 12 months or so. So it's about maximising what's right for you, your family and your circumstances. So we are starting to see supplies return to normal levels a little bit. So I'll give you a little bit view of what that looks like. So in regards to this, sales agreed compared to pre-pandemic years, again, we're seeing some stability there. My chart's cut off the ends there, sorry about that, guys, but I'll kind of read through it from you here. So UK as a whole, slower sales and steady flow of new supply have boosted the stocks of homes with over 60% compared to last year. The average estate agent is seeing that between 40 and 20% of an increase in regards to the new flow. And if you look at the areas here in particular, so the first one is the northeast, so they're up by 30%. Scotland is seeing an increase of 16%, but actually that's a good thing, because actually in the pandemic situation, we were really struggling for stock. So the fact that we've now got 16% more stock coming on in Scotland is great, and that impacts us and helps us in Fife as well. So that's having a rollerball effect throughout Fife too. So for us, that's a real positive. The glass half full, half empty scenario, I think for us, the fact that we are kind of coming back to pre-pandemic years and a bit of a stabilisation in the market is a good thing. We're frequently asked the question at the moment, should I wait? If my home report was done in the summer, what does that mean for me today? And actually the reality of that is, if that happened with yourself, then really now is not going to impact you massively in regards to how that value has changed. Because if you had it done in the summer, it was based on all the prices of property that had sold in the area, and the prices have held. So actually what we're seeing is a normality and a stabilisation of the property pricing and the property levels. So if anything, worst case scenario, it will hold. But actually what the stats are telling us is that in we still increased by 5.7% on property values. So worst case scenario, it'll hold. Will it go down? Very unlikely. And we're certainly not seeing that at this moment in time. So that's a real big positive as well. So activity levels holding up in more affordable markets. We've spoken about that. So median discounts on asking prices in sale, we're in England, UK wide, they're seeing a reduction of about 14,000. We're not seeing that. We've seen an increase at the moment. So in Scotland, the average house price is 187,000. In Fife, it's 174,000. Actually, that's been the same price, 174,000, over the last 12 months. We haven't seen it really dip at all. So it's stayed pretty steady for us. Scotland has changed slightly. They have seen a bit of a dip. So Scotland average was 187 at the end of December. And actually that was a reduction as such, but actually it just took it back to May of last year's pricing. Actually, that's quite a strong situation still to be in. Fife has held steady at 174 as your average, and that's still up 5.3%. So it goes back to my earlier point about home reports and will my survey have reduced in price if I had it done last summer? And we're not seeing that. What we are seeing at the moment is sometimes actually that it will take longer to sell a property. So whereby you were maybe selling in 2 or 3 weeks, it is maybe taking 6 weeks to 8 weeks to sell. So that's between 6 and 8. And I think what happens there is you'll maybe get some buyers that potentially are thinking, oh, it's been on the market a little while, I'll just take a chance, I'll offer a price and maybe get a good discount reduction, etc. We're not seeing that at all. The properties, when they're being priced at the moment in Fife, are priced on their current condition and what they're actually available to. So it's just a case of actually you as a seller not potentially panicking because maybe your right buyer just hasn't come along yet. They're not in the market yet. We speak about this often as well, don't we, where it's 20 people per day in Fife to decide whether to buy or sell a property. So there will always be someone out there that will come along. It's just about being patient and waiting to see what happens, and gaining the advantage of that price stability that we've got and that price increases that we're seeing in some areas. So hit by buying power at 4% mortgage rates, we've talked about that. So they talk quite a bit about mortgage rates and where that's going to go. And actually, as we said earlier, that really is the big unknown. We just don't know what's going to happen with that. The Bank of England are not shifting on it. They are basically saying we need to see what's going to happen with inflation. And so it's a wait and see game, but actually your circumstances might not be as such that you can wait. So our suggestion would be go now. Your circumstances are what they are. You will still secure good rates at the moment. You will potentially secure a property at the affordability mark that you wish for. And the average person is earning 31,000 in Fife. So actually, if you're looking at the average property being at 174, that's a good multiplier. It's about 6 times the salary. Whereas in London, England, some of the southeast areas, it's like 9-10 times. So big difference there. So Scotland and Fife certainly do seem to be stabilising. Dave makes a comment here. Seems that Scotland and Fife in particular are stabilising to market function rather than the knee-jerk panicking created by negative media and fear-based reporting. And that's a really good thing. We talk about that all the time, don't we, Dave? It's like the headline, the strap line, and all you see is the strap line. It's a disaster. Hang on, it was 0.001%. That's not a disaster. That's quite a stable situation to be in. So I think it is just about equipping yourself with all of the data and all of the information. So certainly for ourselves, we're seeing that stability there. So not a major concern for us. Just got some additional stats that I'd like to share with you. So if we look at this one, for instance, so this one basically is demonstrating the asking prices that people potentially are having on increase or decreasing. So if you look at 2018, for instance, asking prices achieved, so the discounts that they had to accept to be able to sell their property. So in 2018, for instance, it was minus 3.2, 19, 3.5, 2020, 2.6, and so on and so forth. February is showing a minus 4.5, but not here. Remember, this is Zoopla's opinion. It doesn't take into account Rightmove. It doesn't take into account other selling platforms. And it is a UK-wide situation. We're not seeing that impact in Fife at all. We're probably around about that. And it's very rare, actually, that someone will need to do a price reduction. We're not seeing a big impact with that. So again, not a big start for us to be concerned about. Resetting the prices, as I say, on a regional basis, there are some reductions. The big headline, as I said, in the UK wise was that it was like 14%, but it's still overall up 5.3. So, you may get some dramatic stats, but those are not consistent results that we're seeing. So we don't have an over concern in regards to that. And then if I show you this one, so again, this is about, are we losing momentum? What's the impact for us? How prices growth losing momentum? So the way that this looks in the line at the top here, so this is now, and then you've got your pre-pandemic. So actually it almost mirrors it with a bit more of a stabilization here, a little bit of a dip. This is obviously when January 16, January 15, so then January 23. Pretty stable environment really along there in regards to the way that property house prices are growth and stability. But for this last year, 5.7% increase in Fife, I think that's a good place to be. Certain properties will benefit higher. It just really depends on where you're at, doesn't it, and what's working for you. If we look at UK wide, oh sorry, my chart's a wee bit skew with there. I'll read that for you. But again, as I said, in Scotland, what we're saying here is that property is at 5.7. So if we compare that to, say, the Liverpools, for instance, Liverpool, it's 6.5. If we look at Newcastle, 5.5, Glasgow, 2.7, Edinburgh, 3.1, Aberdeen, 0.2% increase. Pretty much through all of the Scotland elements that we've looked at that Zoopla report on, Fife is performing the strongest at 5.7. So that's a really strong position. I mean, it's almost double what Glasgow is. It's nearly double what Edinburgh is. And it's about 6 times what it is in Aberdeen. So again, very swap that over. There we go. So in summary, what does it really mean for you? I think for me, in summary, what it means is that we're in a strong position. Fife property prices seem to be holding their own compared to the UK, according to Zoopla, and it's pretty steady in regards to improvements. UK-wise, the price has gone up by 5.3, 5.7. So we're seeing quite a strong market still. Is it pre-pandemic? Yes. Is it what it was 12 months ago? No. What's that impact been to you? Well, the impact actually is that surveyors have caught up, property values have caught up, and it has stabilised. And I think actually it goes back to Dave's comment. The fact that it's a stabilised market makes it secure for us all. We kind of can make almost good judgments on that. There is always a risk element. Property is a risk. We talk about that frequently. But we've got a stable market. We're in a good position. The prices are still continuing to go up and improve and increase. And the activity is still there as well. Yes, there's more choice. Yes, it may take a longer time to sell the property. Should you go now? My feeling is yes, you should. I think it's a great time to do it. And I hope I've demonstrated to you where some of the statistics are showing that in Scotland and Fife we have stabilised. But if you do have any other questions or you'd like to comment it, the article will be on the link here. So feel free to jump on and have a look at it after. The Zoopla stats are on there as well. It literally is everything that I've said with a bit more involved in regards to it, but it might give you a bit of an insight to how you'd want to proceed if you're considering being in that situation just now. Feel free to reach out if we can help at all in any way. This is Perry at Fife Property TV. Take care and thanks for your time.